Well, in case there was some confusion, I'm going to tell you that there's many differences between boys and girls, and chromosomes are not the only difference. Neurologically, girls develop very differently from boys. If you are a patient, then you're going to remember that once you are born, it is the frontal cortex or the frontal lobe of your brain that begins to develop. That's why we have a soft spot on top of our head so that we have room to grow that frontal lobe. Now, remember, the frontal lobe is the executive portion of your brain. It carries out a lot of executive functions. The three primary functions is flexion, inhibition. So what does that mean? What are your flexor muscles? These muscles right here, these are called your SEMs. Like flex them there, you can see them right there. Okay, these are flexor muscles. They bring your head down, and that's why when we're born, we're in the fetal position because these flexor muscles are on. This is a flexor muscle. Your hip crease is a flexor muscle. Okay, that's why it's called the fetal position is a flexion position. So your frontal lobe, as it develops, it inhibits those flexors so that our extensors kick in, and that's what actually brings the C curve or the banana curve to your spine. The second thing that the cortex does is inhibits fight or flight, part of the autonomic system or your stress response. The third function of the frontal lobe is behavior modification. So we can look at all of those aspects, but what does that mean for a boy? Well, now we need to understand how the right and left brain develop. Girls develop from right to left. Boys develop from left to right, and this is a very distinct difference. So let me give you a couple of functions on what's the right brain is responsible for and what the left brain is responsible for. So on the right side of the brain, you will see faith, hope, optimism, those types of feelings. The right side of the brain tells us what not to do. It is responsible for our values, our manners. It gives us joy. It gives us empathy or a feeling of concern for others. It also puts the brakes or inhibits the immune response. So let's talk about the left side. On the left side, you're going to see its function as telling you what not to say. It's a more linear side, more logical. It's responsible for pride. It's responsible for love, but it has to be shown how to love. It is the action center of the brain. So if we have feelings of empathy or care and concern on the right side, the left side says, okay, well, this is how we're going to take action on those feelings that we just had. You'll see happiness and sadness on the left side. Negativity comes from the left side. Wives, don't be looking at your husbands right now, okay? The immune response is also on the left side. Now, so let's talk about this as a male develops or a little boy develops. Remember, we said they develop left to right. This is why males are generally more delayed in their school years in terms of speech and articulation and reading. It's not because they're not as smart, it's because those connections haven't been made from the left to the right side yet. The girls, it comes easier because it's already on the right side, and that's how they develop, right to left. Boys are, again, the pride issue. So this becomes a problem if those boys are made fun of or ridiculed because they can't speak well or they can't read well, and then they're made fun of, then that pride issue comes in, and then they remember that for the rest of their lives. You know, we laugh about it, but that's it really does happen in these little boys. Now, remember I said that, and this is also why boys kind of think before they, or act before they think. That's the same reason. Some of the little boys never grew out of that, I don't think. But again, it's the right side is what not to do, left side is what not to say. So sometimes our right brain is shut off. But in a more serious note, this is really, really important, because if we don't have the proper communication frontal lobe, if there's weakness, what happens? Well, the first thing we look at is, again, the flexors. Posture is the most important marker, or the easiest way that I can tell someone's brain health. Because if there is no brain executive function, what happens? Well, these flexors get tight depending on the side of weakness. So let's say it's this side weakness. What's going to happen to this flexor? So now I've got head tilt. Along with that flexion of the SCM here, now we're losing the curve and we get head forward translation. So at the front we look like this. At the side we lose that curve. Maybe that head comes out more. We see that a lot in men especially. Okay, so let's talk about behavior modification. This is where it really comes into play, especially in our young adults. If there is frontal cortex weakness, we are not developing properly left to right. And so we don't speak properly, or we have more negative thoughts. We're not inhibited as we should be. And in fact, the activities like ADHD, ADD often come out as a result. There was a study that did a brain scan on boys with ADHD. These boys, that is a prefrontal weakness that occurs when we have ADD or ADHD, and the brain imaging for those boys looks the exact same as a serial killer's brain image. That's something scary to think about now, isn't it? Why? Because of that development, there is no empathy. Empathy is on the right brain. So you will see a lot of actions, school shootings, not carried out by girls, carried out by boys. And this is often a lot of the reason why. Weakness. And so as we start to adjust, allow the communication to occur again, now we need to retrain that brain through movement. And one of the best movements that can occur is a dad playing ball with their son. Movement stimulates the brain. They are shown love, they are shown care, they are shown concern by activity. They only learn that through another person. They will not learn that in front of a computer screen. They will not learn that playing Fortnite. So if you want the best development for your children, especially your sons, for the love of God, go outside and play. Not only will it help them, it will help you and your brain function immensely, and your relationships. It's okay if you're a single mom. If dad is not there, mom, you can do it. Okay? Show some love, show some concern, show activity through activity with these kids. That's so vitally important to a family unit, to show love, to show concern, and get the movement in. The less movement we have, the more brain weakness is exposed. And if it's happening at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, what happens when they're 19? Then what happens when they're 29? And it just continues to get worse. Hope you're listening. Hope that made sense to you. If you have any questions, please ask me. That's what I'm here for, to help you live not only your life, but your family's life in victory.